again, John Wild here to give you another look at vintage action figures, and this time we're going to be looking at Flash Gordon, the greatest adventure of all time, from Mattel Toys, 1979. With the success of Star Wars action figures, toy companies search for the next big thing. Hasbro made G.I. Joe into Super Joe. Mego brought Star Trek, Buck Rogers, and the Black Hole into a 3 3/4 scale. And Mattel made Flash Gordon into a new action figure line. Using Filmation's New Adventures of Flash Gordon as a base, 8 figures and 2 vehicles were produced. Let's get a little background on Flash Gordon. Flash Gordon, a comic strip, premiered on January 7, 1934 in Sunday newspapers across the United States. This was King Features' answer to the very popular Buck Rogers comic strip. Writer-artist Alex Raymond's beautiful artwork and interesting character design made this new comic strip a smash hit. Soon Hollywood made their own version of Flash Gordon, starring Buster Crabbe. Flash Gordon was a very popular space character, and he ruled the Sunday comics for many years. In 1978, a production of the new animated version of Flash Gordon began by Filmation Studios. A feature-length film was produced, but an American theatrical release didn't happen. But NBC was interested in turning the movie into a weekly series. Using the altered movie and new footage, The New Adventures of Flash Gordon premiered on NBC on September 22, 1979. The show ran for 2 seasons, separated by 2 years. 32 episodes were produced. The show's last air date was November 6, 1982. The original movie was released in Europe, and it varies from the NBC TV show. The movie is set in the 1940s, with the subplot of Ming's help of the Axis powers in World War II. The TV show's timeline is not set, but follows the original Raymond story quite closely. Alan Oppenheimer, before voicing Skeletor for He-Man, added his talent to the voice of Ming and Dr. Zarkov. The action figure line for Mattel hit the shelves in Christmas of 1979. 3 waves of figures were released. The first wave of figures included Flash, Ming, Prince Thun, and the Lizard Woman. The second wave, released in 1979, included Dr. Zarkov and the Beast Man. The third and final wave included Captain Iraq and Vultan. 2 vehicles were also produced. In 1979, Ming's Space Shuttle, and in 1980, the inflatable rocket ship. No playsets were produced, but a laser pistol was. Shared accessories include a spear and a blaster. All carded figures share the same front packaging. Card backs have product variations between 1979 and the 1980 product. Boxed mailer variations also exist of these figures. Let's take a closer look here at a carded Ming figure. So this is the only carded figure I have in my collection. See on the top, it's got action figure from the TV Spectaculars, Flash Gordon, the greatest adventure of them all. It's got a really nice artwork up here in the corner of city on Mongo and some ships. And bringing down onto the card, we're going to see the assembled cast of characters that were included in the Flash Gordon set. So artwork is really, really nice. Here's our Mattel logo, and each one of these would have the figure would be in a blister like this. The name would be different, so this one is Ming. Turning the card around to the back, so we have on the top here Flash Gordon. We have a look at the artwork of the 4 original figures. You can also see that the accessories that came with the figure, Flash came with a blaster, and the Lizard Woman came with a staff, spear, whatever you really want to call it. They've got the tail on the Lizard Woman. You don't see the tail on Thun, which is interesting. Again, going down here to the bottom, we see Dr. Zarkov and the Beast Man. So that has been a look at a carded Flash Gordon action figure. The first figure we're going to look at here is Flash Gordon. So here he is. They did a really nice job sculpting all of these figures. I've always been very impressed with the sculpt on the heads. Good detail into the hair. Nice job.
On the back of the figure we have a stamp, and it says 1979 Hong Kong and a manufacturing. He's got a red tunic on with a yellow belt. His hands are painted on, so you're often going to find your Flash Gordon figures have wear marks on the hands, and it's going to show through. Again, the paint applications on these figures was actually done very cheaply. It does show in the quality of the figure. Moving down, he's got a pair of blue, I guess that would be trunks on, or leggings on, and he has on silver colored boots. Silver colored paint onto the boots. So a very nicely sculpted figure. He would have come with an accessory, which was a white blaster pistol. Unfortunately, I don't have it. You've seen pictures of it in this video. Let's look at the next figure. The next figure we're going to look at here is Ming. And Ming is, again, it's a very nice sculpt that they did on the head of Ming. He looks just like he does in the cartoon. His head does not articulate, unlike the rest of the figures. His arms do rotate up and down, so he's a 4-point figure. Legs are going to move. Great sculpting on the costume. Again, he's kind of wearing that same type of waist adornment around his body, similar to Flash. Again, it's going to say manufacturing date 79 Hong Kong on it. Gloves are painted onto a tan bodysuit, and he also has had tan leggings on and a pair of blue boots, almost a la Batman style. So that has been Ming, the action figure. So we have here Prince Thun, or Thun, depending on how you want to call him, but he was a prince in the cartoon show. He is one of 2 of the figures that have an attached tail. So when you're looking to find one of these, often this tail is missing. I understand probably why the tails were removed from the figures. It makes it difficult to stand this figure up with the tail. He, like Ming, does not have any articulation at the head, but the sculpting is very nice on this figure. For 1979, it's better than Star Wars sculpting, in my opinion. They did a really nice job. He's got a bare chest. He's wearing a he's just wearing his basically like a little jungle, I don't know what the heck they would call that, loincloth. Yeah, he's got a loincloth on. His legs are bare. He's got 3 toes on each feet, make him kind of and his fingers, he only has 3 fingers and a thumb. So kind of wild type of different type of character. He has cufflinks on his hands that would have been chains because he was an imprisoned person on Mongo, even in the cartoon or the show. So this is Flash Gordon's second best buddy, Thun the Lion-Man. You'll see when I try and stand him up here. He definitely, with that tail, he does not like to stand. The last figure from Wave 1 was the Lizard Woman. And Lizard Woman was one of Ming's minions that ran the atomic generator, and they were kind of like overseers of the workers down there. So she probably, I think she's cast in 2 different plastics. I don't think that that's something that's happened over age. She doesn't have any neck articulation, so she's just a 4-point figure. Again, she has the infamous tail, and again, this tail makes it very difficult for this figure to stand up. It really interferes with the ability for the figure to stand, and I can imagine that got frustrating for kids, and they probably pulled the tail off for that reason. So finding this figure with a tail is relatively challenging. The sculpt is very unique because it's a lizard woman. It's kind of definitely a chesty figure. Pretty cool. So they sculpted the eyes, put a little bit of yellow paint detail on her. I think the reason that the body is different color than the legs and arms is I think that's to simulate that she does have clothing on. It doesn't translate very well, but they definitely in the cartoon show were wearing clothing. So this isn't a naked lizard woman. She actually has something on. So she has sculpted arms. and all her fingers and thumbs are present there, and her feet have unique webbed sculpting on them. So they did a nice job adding a little bit of lizard onto the feet and making her hands kind of more human-like. So that has been, and I'm going to have to hold her up here because she's not going to stand on her own. That has been Lizard Woman, the last figure from Wave 1. Our second wave of figures begins with Dr. Zarkov. This would be Flash Gordon's best friend and companion on Mongo. Interestingly, they did not do a Dale Arden. They just did male characters other than the Lizard Woman, which is surprising. Dale Arden is Flash Gordon's girlfriend and main character on the TV show. Unfortunately, they did not make an action figure of her, but they did do Dr. Zarkov. And Dr. Zarkov, I believe, is the first action figure to be sculpted with a belly. He's not very athletic. He's a scientist. He's not an athlete. So Dr. Zarkov does have articulation at the head, so his head will move left and right. His arms are articulated up and down, and he's also can move his legs forward and back. So he has a blue sweatshirt on. He's wearing a black belt with a white belt buckle. He's got on a pair of blue pants, and he's wearing black shoes. It's a really good sculpt. Again, I've always been very impressed with how nice the sculpting is on the heads of these figures and the bodies. Really are a charming action figure to have in your collection. So the last figure from Wave 2, there were only 2 figures that were produced, and out of this second wave is the Beastman here. You'll have to pardon this figure. It's pretty tough to find. So somebody colored on this guy a little bit. I did my best to remove it, but it's still kind of there. But I'm just very happy to have this figure. It's a tough one to find. So he does not have any articulation at head, just has articulation at the arms and the legs. They did a really cool, he's a really mean looking character, and these were creepy looking beings in the cartoon show with those yellow eyes. Translates very well to this action figure. The sculpting is superior. He has kind of some chest hair kind of sculpted onto him coming around to the back of the figure. Again, it has the 1979 and Hong Kong. He's wearing kind of another long cloth, or kind of a fur trunk on, and he has his fingers, believe it or not, he has 4 fingers and a thumb. His feet are sculpted, and he has kind of elongated feet. They're definitely not human feet. They're shorter, and this figure, in comparison to all of the other figures, we'll bring Ming in here, is shorter. He's shorter in stature to the regular figures. Comparing him to a regular sized figure, Ming being the example, the Beastman is shorter by, a half an inch. So he's unique in his size also. So that was the Wave 2, the last of the Wave 2, the Beastman. Let's go take a look at Wave 3. First figure from Wave 3 we're going to look at is Captain Iraq. He is he's another interesting sculpt. He's got very Flash Gordon-ish. I would say he's the most Flash Gordon-y of the Flash Gordon figures. So he's got on kind of like a Roman soldier's type of helmet, very Raymond-esque, the writer and artist of Flash Gordon. He's in his colors, I think, translate very well to Flash Gordon. This is the type of color scheme that you would have seen in the comic strips. So he's wearing a yellow and red outfit. He does have a belt with a gun holster on it, and yellow boots. Overall, it's really a nice figure. It's one of my favorites in the line. So on the back of the figure, he does have the Hong Kong 1979. You can see that on the back of the figure. So he's wearing a yellow chest. That's probably armor. He's got some red detail. That would be like the logo for Ming. He's got a belt and like a cummerbund underneath it, and then he's got a belt holster on there. He's wearing a red shirt underneath it with yellow gloves. He's got on red tights with yellow boots. So this has been Captain Iraq, which is the first of 2 figures in Wave 3. An unfortunate part of my collection is every once in a while I'll have an incomplete figure that I'm going to have to show off. This is a very tough figure to find complete. The wings are very fragile on this figure. I'm going to gingerly turn this figure around. You're going to see he has like a peg in his back, and these wings would peg in. But they, if you manipulated these wings back and forth, you would cause a stress on the plastic, which would then ultimately make it break off. You can see how thin that plastic is to hold those wings on. So the majority of the time that you find one of these figures, his wings are completely missing. I'm lucky to at least have a figure with one wing. The sculpting on this figure is very good and is very Raymond-esque. It looks just like the character from the comic book strip, Flash Gordon. So he's wearing a helmet. He's got elongated ears, kind of pointy Spock-like ears, a big red beard. He's not a nice looking guy, but he's definitely a fierce looking guy. He's wearing a tunic underneath his armor, his legs are bare, and he's got a pair of boots on. So this is again, this is just a 4-point figure. That a lot of these figures were 4 points of articulation, not 5 points of articulation like Star Wars figures. I don't necessarily think that had anything to do with kids not buying these figures, that there was one less point of articulation, but definitely the lack of accessories or the fragility of the accessories definitely gave this action figure line a little bit of a name. So that was your look at all 8 of the Flash Gordon action figures. Unfortunately, this toy line did not sell well. The exceptional sculpting is some of the best of the 1970s, but lack of accessories, fragile accessories, and basically just bad accessories made these figures less exciting. The lack of a playset and the cheap vehicles didn't help the sales either. The accessories are often missing when you find these figures out in the wild, as the blasters are tiny and the spear, well, was kind of boring, so I'd imagine most kids just probably threw them away. The TV show was good, but the gap between the 2 seasons was too great to generate any real interest in this toy line. The Flash Gordon movie was far better than the TV show, and I would suggest for you to seek it out here on YouTube. The Series 1 figures are quite common and inexpensive, but subsequent waves of figures are scarce on the secondary market. I would like to thank you for watching my video. Please like, share, and subscribe to catch my latest uploads. And until next time, Flash Gordon conquers the universe!